So today I'm in Harbor Beach, Michigan. Harbor Beach is up near the thumb, or up near the top of the thumb in Michigan, sits on the shore of Lake Huron. And I'm here today to talk about one of the most intriguing personalities in Michigan history, but also one of the most intriguing personalities in U.S. history. This guy had an amazing life, an amazingly full life, and I can't wait to tell you about it. Our story starts up the hill here, so follow me. So, here I am at the birthplace of Frank Murphy. Frank Murphy is one of the most interesting figures in Michigan history and United States history. So, he grows up here, and when he becomes of age, he goes to the University of Michigan Law School, where he graduates in 1912. After 1912, he goes off to London, England, and studies law there, as well as in Dublin, Ireland. Comes back and teaches a few years at the University of Detroit, and then joins the Army, where he becomes a captain in World War I. And he's part of the occupied Germany after World War I. He comes back from World War I and becomes a recorder's court judge in Detroit, and then shortly after that, he's elected mayor of Detroit. And he's mayor of Detroit in a really interesting time. It's during the height of the Depression, or the deepest part of the Depression. And during his tenure as mayor, and he just had a 2-year term as mayor, he settled the, settles is probably a bad word for it, but he intervened in the General Motors strike, where he was ordered to have the strikers removed from the plant in Flint. Instead, he sent in the National Guard and protected the workers. Anyway, he also helped set up food banks and such for the poor in Detroit, and also had some help with Henry Ford in that, believe it or not. And then his story gets even more interesting. Let's go find a place to sit down. This gets good. Okay, so I couldn't find a place to sit. This will have to do. So Frank Murphy is the mayor of Detroit, and unlike a lot of mayors of Detroit, Frank Murphy's career actually takes a nice road up from here. You know, his path keeps going up. He doesn't get reelected to the mayor of Detroit. It's during the Depression. It's got to be hard to get reelected to anything in 1933. But he's quickly appointed by President Roosevelt to become the Governor General of the Philippines, sort of a figurehead of the Philippines, representative for the United States. The structure was weird for that, so they made him the High Commissioner of the Philippines, which was interesting. Anyway, that lasted a couple of years. He comes back to Michigan and becomes governor of Michigan. He's elected governor. And I had it wrong back there. It was during his years as governor of Michigan where he intervened on behalf of the workers, General Motors, during that famous Flint strike in 1937. Anyway, so he's governor for one term, and then when he's done with that, President Roosevelt again appoints him to Attorney General. So Frank Murphy becomes the Attorney General of the United States, and he does that for a couple of years. After 2 years of that, or 3 I think, Roosevelt then appoints him to a vacancy on the United States Supreme Court bench. So he becomes a Supreme Court justice, which is an amazing deal. He writes something like 200 opinions in the majority. He writes 60-some dissent opinions. His most famous one, in my opinion, is the, I think I've got it pronounced right, the Karematsu versus the United States. It was Fred Karematsu suing the United States because he was a Japanese citizen who was detained during World War II. The Supreme Court ruled against Karematsu and for the United States, saying that the interest of Mr. Karematsu was superseded by the interest of the United States against espionage and spying and such. Anyway, Frank Murphy wrote a scathing dissension piece on that, and you should try to read it. It's amazing. It's the first time the word racism is used in a United States Supreme Court brief. Anyway, so, the other thing that he does is during the recesses of being a Supreme Court justice, he goes down and I think it's to Georgia, and he becomes an infantry officer in World War II, training infantrymen at 50, because he's still a captain, right? So he goes down and does that, which is just amazing. Anyway, Frank Murphy's story is just absolutely amazing. He's one of my heroes of Michigan history, let alone or United States history, let alone Michigan history. Anyway, our story ends over here, and this has been fun. I'm sorry this has been long. I hope I haven't been a gas bag on this, but Frank Murphy's story is very interesting to me, so come on. And here's where our story ends. Here's where Frank Murphy is buried, here in at Harbor Beach, or Sand Beach. An impressive life. What I left out of this whole thing, though, is Frank Murphy was 59 when he died. He died of coronary thrombosis at 59. So think for a minute, everything he did in 59 years. It's incredible. And he did it at a state level, he did it at a national level. And he's one of Michigan's heroes, and it's kind of a forgotten hero as well. So I'm going to close by taking a shot of what his actual tombstone there looks like, because there's nothing like it. I don't think there's anything like it in the country. So if you want to see more of these, go to stunt3.com, and thanks for coming.